Welcome back, Stoner Squad, and all those new to the channel. My name is DanIsStoned, and thank you for joining me today for another episode of CK3 Academy, the tutorial series for Crusader Kings 3. In today's episode, we shall be talking about character stats, more precisely what they do. So enough of me rambling on, and let's dive right into some character stats. Throughout the world of CK3, every individual has a set of character stats. They number a total of 5, each representing a different domain, so diplomacy, martial, stewardship, intrigue, and learning. These are all located under every character's 3D portrait. These stats determine the overall competence of the individual. The higher the number, the better that character will be in the corresponding domain. These values are increased or decreased depending on a variety of factors, such as character traits, for example. How this works is that each individual has a base stat in each category, onto which is added or subtracted a certain amount depending on their character traits and other modifiers. For example, the Caliph al-Mu'taz of the Abbasids has a base diplomacy stat of 10, which was determined while he was growing up. Due to the fact that he is a callous and greedy man, his diplomacy stat is reduced by 4, so -2 for each one of those traits. Now, due to the fact that he owns a holy site of Medina, he is added +1 to diplomacy, so that makes 10, so the base stat, -4, which is -2 per trait, and then +1 for possessing the holy site, which makes 7. This gives him a diplomacy rating of poor. Now that we have successfully determined what the stats are and how they are calculated, what exactly do they do? Well, let's take each stat at a time. So first of all, let's start off with diplomacy. It either increases or decreases the general opinion of you depending on your diplomacy level. The higher the stat, the more opinion people have of you. But if it is too low, you'll receive negative modifiers to general opinion. This is the case with our dear Caliph, who has -2 to general opinion because he has a low diplomacy stat. Diplomacy also affects the effectiveness of diplomacy schemes, such as trying to befriend somebody, for example. Next, moving on to the martial stat. This represents how much of a fighter/commander you are, basically how good you are at waging war. Martial ability affects levy size and levy reinforcement rate, as well as your competence when leading troops in battle. As you can see, the Caliph is terrible. I mean, terrible's an understatement. He's goddamn awful, and as such, he suffers some pretty severe penalties to levy size and levy reinforcement rate. So the levy size is the number of levies you can raise, and the levy reinforcement rate means the rate at which you recuperate lost levies. The following stat is called stewardship, and that represents how well you manage your realm. It has a direct effect on how much money you make through taxes in your domain and your domain's size. Now, it is important to note the difference between your domain taxes and your vassal taxes. It does not affect your vassal taxes. The vassal taxes being the amount of money your vassals give you. Your domain taxes is the amount of money you generate from the holdings that you own. Rulers with high stewardship will generate more income and have a higher domain limit. Just like with the martial stat, the Caliph is pretty bad at managing his realm and decreasing his domain taxes by 6%, and only increasing his domain limit by 1, so the number of holdings he can directly control. Now, let's move on to the intrigue stat, which represents the measure of how well you are at plotting, that being murder and manipulation, for example. This directly increases or decreases the scheme discovery chance, so the chance per month that you discover a plot against you or your courtiers, as well as your scheme's success chance, so the chance that one of your schemes succeed. It turns out that the Caliph is incredibly competent and an excellent intrigue stat of 19, making plot discovery and execution a lot easier. And finally, we have the learning stat, which represents an individual's wisdom. Wisdom has a direct effect on how much piety you generate, as well as reducing the cost of changing crown authority. In this case, the Caliph has an average learning skill of 12, which generates 1.2 piety per month. Learning also has a bit of a hidden effect. It's not directly revealed, but it does affect the speed at which you research innovations if you are the culture head. Remember, only the culture head's learning can affect the research speed rate. Before we finish, let's talk about what I'm going to call a bonus stat, and that is the prowess. Now, it is located to the far right next to the other 5 stats. It's basically the personal combat ability that you know of in CK2. It determines how well the individual will perform in duels or battles as knights. It's pretty much how good he is at kicking someone's ass, and Mr. Caliph here is pretty crap with his massive 3 prowess, so you want to avoid any form of duels or commanding any armies. Well, that's it for this video, people. I hope it helped in some shape or form, and if it did, please don't hesitate to smash that like button down below, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet for more content. As per usual, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll hopefully catch you all in the next one. Bye for now.